So if you've been following along at home, you would know that usually later on in the week, about this time, I would do a bit I've been calling the News Box News Brief. And basically what I do is I talk about, a very expensive collectible. It's fun, and I had one planned. This thing is, the one I was going to do is about this life-size queen alien head that mounts to the wall. It's by Hollywood Collectibles. It's $2,000. I had it all written out. But this thing with Toys R Us really is pissing me off. Now, I was going to address this on Saturday Night Losers this coming week. I mentioned it this past week. And, look, we all know at this point, there has been some, maybe the company, the Canadian part of the company might live, but whatever. At this point, it's looking like the company's going to close. So I was going to address it all on Saturday Night Losers. But in my group, J-Man's Super Secret Club, whatever, on Facebook, one of my friends, Brian, posted an article that annoyed the fuck out of me. And I'm going to talk about this for a couple minutes. Now, here's the thing. I got 4 articles I'm going to talk about here. I don't have any kind of rhyme or reason. We're just going to blitzkrieg through them. It's going to be a little bit of a history lesson. It's going to be a little bit of a, me venting more or less. So the thing that pissed me off, the reason why I'm doing this altogether and not doing a funny bit, is this article, which comes from USA Today, published on December 5th, my birthday, 2017. Bankruptcy judge approves $14 million Toys R Us executive bonus payout. Now, Toys R Us back in September 2017 filed for bankruptcy. In December, the company went in front of a judge to get $14 million in incentive bonuses for 17 top executives. Now, because I want to be fair, quote unquote fair, they didn't just hand $14 million to 17 guys or women. There was incentives in order for them to do this. Initially, it was supposed to be $16 million, but they were forced to restructure it to $14 million. The way they were going to get this $14 million, Toys R Us must achieve adjusted earnings of at least $484 million before any money would be paid out. They'd have to hit an adjusted earnings $550 million in order for the $14 million to be paid out. Which, by the way, they did because the money got paid out. When they went in front of the judge, attorneys for Toys R Us told the bankruptcy court that the bonuses are needed to motivate top employees to work hard to emerge from bankruptcy and transform the company, which is complete and utter bullshit because everybody knows that the guys on top don't do dick. It's everybody below that does all the work. The guys up at the top, all they do is point figures, but, hey, they got to do the hard work, right? So, by the way, the company isn't emerging from bankruptcy, but they still got that 14 mil. So let's move on. We're going to come back to this. Now we're going to go to the business of today. We're going to go to the Washington Post. Toys R Us to close all 800 of its U.S. stores. They're losing 33,000 jobs as the company winds down operations after 6 decades. The reason why, and I'm going to allude to internet sales and all this other bullshit, is because they've struggled to pay down nearly $8 billion in debt from a 2005 leverage buyout. I'm going to talk about that leverage buyout in a second as well. Here comes the excuses. Toys R Us, once the company's preeminent toy retailer, has been unable to keep up with the big box and online competitors. I'm so sick of hearing that. It's complete and utter bullshit. Okay, it's not complete utter bullshit. There is some validity to it. But when you're saddled with $5 billion in debt, billion, not million, billion, there's no way you can innovate because that money has to go down to paying the debt, which I'm going to talk about in a couple minutes. The recent holiday season dealt another blow to the embattled company, which struggled to find footing even as retail industry racked up its largest gains in years. It's a fucking toy store. It's Christmas, and it couldn't even find its footing. Here, Industry experts say it doesn't offer of Toys R Us. It doesn't offer the low prices or convenience of some of its larger competitors, nor the fun-filled experience that many smaller outfits do, some analysts have said. That's because it's too busy paying down $5 billion fucking dollars in debt. Back in the mid-90s, I live in Pennsylvania. They had, I guess it was the flagship store at the time. They did this grand experiment where they took the Toys R Us, Oxford Valley, PA, and they revamped it. I mean, they gutted it, and they made it this experience where it was colorful. The toys are out. It was a great store to go to. You could take your kids. The shit was out. You could play with it. It was beautiful. And then a couple years later, they just took it back to a warehouse. And it's a shame because when you go into the store, you can still see that the tiled floor was set up the way it was. So they were at one point innovative. At one point. Okay. The next two articles go back into one another. This one is called From CNN Money. Amazon didn't kill Toys R Us. Here's what did. It's spoiler alert, $5 billion. God, it's so fucking aggravating. And I'm going to quote right from the article. Even Toys R Us CEO David Brandon conceded in the SEC filing last fall for the bankruptcy back in September, the company had fallen behind competitors on various fronts, including with regard to general upkeep and the condition of the stores. You know why? Because they were busy paying off $5 billion in debt. They couldn't pay their fucking employees. Even Walmart, I think, pays more than their Toys R Us. $5 billion. The Washington Post article said it was upwards of $8 billion. That's fucking insane. Oh my God. Now, most of these articles say the problem stems back from 2005. I say it goes back even further than that. High prices. Back in the 90s, man, they were still expensive and they were just printing monies, and that's what happened to them. Of course, and here it is right here, quoting, much of the chain's resources were devoted to paying off the massive debt load rather than staying competitive. You don't fucking say. Oh, here it is. When Toys R Us filed for bankruptcy in September 2017, it disclosed it had about $5 billion in debt and was spending about $400 million a year just to service that debt. $400 million a year, all because of a private equity firm, which we're going to talk about in a second. It's going to blow your fucking mind. God damn. Part of the condition of filing for bankruptcy in September, Brandon, the CEO of Toys R Us, said it would invest $65 million in the stores. The company hoped to add playrooms where kids could try out toys and spaces for birthday parties, but it never got the chance. $65 million. They paid out $14 million to executives. That's a quarter of $65 million. That's fucking insane. Oh, this is beautiful. Again, from the filing. Brandon also vowed to spend more money on staff, with extremely low unemployment competitors like Walmart raising wages while Toys R Us was having trouble attracting the kind of help it needed. Duh. Oh, I love this line. And I'm quoting this. Better employees make for happier customers, Brandon said in the filing. No shit. So, let's talk about private equity firms. A conglomerate of Bain Capital and Vernando Realty, plus a third company, bought Toys R Us in 2005. The third company I didn't write down because I'm a fucking idiot and an imminent. This, what we're going to talk about right now, comes from an article, May 23rd. It's dated May 23rd, 2012. So this isn't recent. It's by Josh Kosman, Why Private Equity Firms Like Bain Really Are the Worst of Capitalism. Now, this article goes into detail about how shitty private equity firms are. Duh. But specifically, I thought this was interesting, how Bain Capital is the focus of this. So, I've been talking about leverage buyout. What the fuck is a leverage buyout? Right from the article, here's what private equity is really about. A firm like Bain obtains cheap credit and uses it to acquire a company. This is all going to be about Toys R Us. You're going to see some similarities in a leveraged buyout. Hang out there with me. Leverage refers to the fact that the company being purchased is forced to pay out about 70% of its own acquisition by taking out loans. maybe $5 billion worth of loans? If this sounds like an odd arrangement, that's because it is. Imagine a home buyer purchasing a house and making the bank responsible for repaying its own loan. It's stupid, right? But wait, there's more. Because once the company is bought, that's when the fun really starts. Or when people start getting richer. The rich getting richer. Once the buyout is complete, the private equity guys start swinging the meat axe. It actually says meat axe. That just sounds wrong. I'm going to start calling it a meat axe. Anyway, aggressively cutting costs where they can so that the company can start paying off its new debt, $5 billion perhaps, by laying off workers, or maybe paying out $14 million in executive bonuses and cutting capital costs. This process often boosts operating profit without a significant hit to the business, but only in the short term, in the long run. And this is where it gets interesting. The austerity approach makes it difficult for companies to stay what? That's right, competitive. I'm sick of hearing about Amazon. Yeah, you know what? In 2005, Amazon was barely making money. 1995, Amazon somewhere 4%. Hey, you know what? Walmart was around before Amazon. Target was around before Amazon. How come they stayed innovative? Maybe because people weren't getting fucking rich off of bullshit. Okay. Bain Realty. Bain Capital. Again, bought Toys R Us, leveraged buyout, 2005 with Fernando Realty. By the way, Bain Capital owned by Mitt Romney. Now, wait a minute. Before we start blaming Mitt about everything, Mitt owned the company from 92 to 2001. However, there is a history here, which we're going to talk about, that has gone on to affect Toys R Us. In 1988, Bain put $10 million down to buy Stage Stores, and in the mid-90s took the company public, collecting $184 million from stock offerings. Guess what? In 2000, Stage filed for bankruptcy. Number one. 1992, Bain bought American Pad and Paper, investing $5 million and collecting $107 million in dividends. Guess what? Company filed for bankruptcy in 2000. Interesting, right? But wait, there's more. In 93, Bain invested $25 million when buying GS Industries and received $58 million from dividends. Guess what? GS filed for bankruptcy in 2001. Last one. Bet you can't figure out what's going to happen here. Bain invested $41 million when buying Details and collected at least $70 million from stock offerings. The question is, when did the company file for bankruptcy? 2003. So, what have we learned here? Man, I'm just sick of all this bullshit. I'm sick of companies, corporations running amok. I mean, it's just, it's fucking aggravating. And listen, it only affects me and affects you if you're watching just because we collect toys and it's part of who we are. But the company's been around for 70 years. 70 fucking years. And because Mitt Romney's company had to buy it in a leveraged buyout, make the company pay back its debt, and it couldn't innovate. In 95, the company was innovative. Oh my God, it's so infuriating. But hey, the rich guys got rich, right? And that's all that matters in the end. Hey, you know what? I wonder if those 30,000 people, 33,000 people, oh my God, it's so fucking irritating. They got $14 fucking million into bankruptcy. And those people, they said, with the company winding down, the employees, this is nice of them. As long as they work for the company, they're guaranteed work for 60 days. I'm sure that they're going to get $1 million severance when the company folds. Fucking ridiculous, man. I'm trying to walk away.